have you guys here with us tonight. I am speaking with Tim. Tim is an NDE. I know we always call it a near-death experience, but he had a death experience. He had two separate death experiences. And we just started talking, and I am so excited about some of the messages he's going to be explaining about his experience. So I know we didn't go back to the beginning, Tim, but how about you kind of set the stage? What happened? I know you said you were in the hospital for 2 months. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'm talking to my wife.
Oh, do you need to be? I can pause this and you can talk to her.
No, I don't want. We're good. We're okay.
Okay.
We'll let her know that we were live. We were recording.
Oh, we're recording. Okay. All right.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So, well, again, thank your wife for sharing.
She thanks you for sharing me with her.
And everybody else is going to be watching.
And everybody else is going to be watching. I hope.
Yes. No, I think it's going to be fantastic. So, Tim,
okay.
Let's start from the beginning. Set the stage for everybody. What happened?
Beginning of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't have been in a better place. I was content. I was healthy. I was fit. I was riding my bike 15 to 20 miles a day. I cooked all my own food. It was basically plant-based with a little bit. I felt like I had done everything I could do to make myself as good as I could make, as I was going to make myself, There was almost no other room for improvement. And so I came home from a bike ride one day with some pain in my upper chest. And the idea of a heart attack wasn't even on the radar.
Right.
I felt like I was healthy. Why is this happening to me? So my wife and I thought it was COVID. We sort of approached it that way, that it came because I was having a hard time breathing, whatever. So later on that night, it went on almost in slow motion for a period of hours. And later that night, I collapsed. And she called 911. The ambulance came and brought me to the hospital. I had a complete blockage in my heart in one chamber.
Okay.
So they were going to go in and put stents into my heart.
Right.
Open that up. Now, not that unusual. It's pretty common these days. And while they were doing the operation, and while I was in surgery, I had a stroke too.
Oh.
So I came out of surgery and I never woke up. I was in a coma.
Oh my goodness.
I really think that this had a big effect on some of these visions, hallucinations, whatever. I don't really, one of the problems with trying to describe this, and I wrote about it on the Facebook page, is we don't really have a lot of the vocabulary you need to talk about some of these things, You try and do the best you can with whatever word you can find, but like what we were talking about earlier, after you do have the death, you go into that realm, how long would that last?
Right.
Reincarnation aside or whatever, so that was something I kind of want to talk about because it really tweaked my interest. That and the guy brought maybe past life regression. So anyways, I'm in the hospital. I'm in a coma for 2 weeks. I come out of the coma, and it wasn't until I came out of the coma, it took about a day or two before I had this whole sensation that now I'm back here.
So you flatlined during the stints in the coma.
Right.
Okay.
3 different times. It was actually 3 times.
You flatlined. Oh my gosh, you flatlined 3 times.
Yeah. And I had these fantastic visions. I had a lot of dreams too. Now people say, oh, they're just dreams. That's just, you imagine stuff like dreams. But I could tell the difference. There was a huge difference.
Oh my gosh, tell me how you could tell the difference.
The vividness of it, the clarity of it. Like I said, I'm a photographer, so I kind of pay attention to stuff. But the colors, there was almost smell. There was warmth. I remember feeling heat from a fire pit kind of thing.
Oh my gosh.
You know what I mean? That stuff in it that doesn't happen in dream. And there was a lot of it was a logical sequence. Like in a dream, it's always these random crazy stuff. Oh, that kid from high school. Oh my God, here's my mom. Whatever, So it was okay, she's shaking her head at me. Derailed me.
Your wife derailed you.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So let me just kind of recap what we were just talking about. So you you go in. I mean, you're at the pinnacle of health. You're plant-based. You're making your food. You're riding your bike. You're doing everything the right way.
I
Never
think,
healthy,
yeah,
healthy.
right.
And you never once did you ever think you were right. This couldn't possibly be a heart attack. Why would it be a heart attack? And then you collapse at night. Your wife calls 911,
Uh-huh.
and they immediately take you in to put. Okay, we got to get stents in you. You have 100% blockage.
Correct. Exactly. I
Okay,
use that number 100%.
100%. That's big. That's a huge number.
That's a big, yeah, as far as blockages go, that's a pretty good size one.
That's a sizable blockage. Was
Right.
that in just one of your arteries?
I thought it was the chamber, but
Oh, the chamber.
really, yeah, I think that's what they said. It was,
Okay.
it was a blockage in one chamber. I used to smoke. I used to smoke like an old Buick, but that was a long time ago. I quit.
Right.
This is part of my why am I having a heart attacks thing. It's been almost 10 years since I quit smoking.
Right.
And funny story though, side story. When I came out, one of the things was, oh my God, I'm back in this real world again, schlepping another life. Oh geez. But the first thing that came to my head was I wanted a cigarette. And I'd been non-smoker for 10 years, hated it, was done with it, didn't even ever desire it. But it came into my mind as soon as I woke up. How crazy is that?
That is crazy.
Well, it's like how it teaches you realize how powerful that stuff really is.
Right.
It's almost like part of your soul.
Right.
Not just physically, it's part of you. It was bizarre.
Wow.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So don't be sorry. I think that is incredibly interesting because because you are you no matter if you're in this body or not.
Well, that was part of my takeaway too, was that it was just all really a continuum of the life of me, of this guy.
Right.
Just kept going and things just kept happening. I was different for it, but it was this guy. And Bob Dylan again had a great line in an interview. They said, I guess the guy asked him, why did you pick Bob Dylan? That wasn't his original name. It used to be Robert Zimmerman.
Right.
he said, I'm just being Bob Dylan for now. Bob Dylan has been around long before I was born. And I married that to kind of my experience and thought, I think this guy, Tim Norton, whoever he is, has been around a long time. And this is just another part. He's just going to keep going. That's exactly how I felt. And that's why I started to wonder about, well, how long would that last? Is that just, was it just some kind of state of euphoria, or is this, is this what happens? I'm not locked in a black box somewhere, whatever. Right. It's not this horrible experience. There's no ghouls and goblins or whatever. It's beautiful, and people were wonderful. And I really, when I came back to, the nurses came in, we need to take some blood. And then another one came in, I need to do your vitals. And I thought, oh my God, I'm back. I gotta do this again.
You gotta do this again.
I don't want to do it. And I've heard other people say that if they had a choice, there was no choice to make, but.
Well, one of the very interesting things is that I don't think I've ever spoken with another NDE or a death survivor so soon. This is 7 months.
Right.
There's a lot of processing that's going to kind of come, I think, as time goes on, right?
I think so. And I hope so. And I hope this, I envision different positive things coming from it. But I got out of the hospital and I was a mess. I was an absolute wreck. I had no energy, no strength, no stamina, no nothing. I could barely walk. I had a walker,
That has been very difficult.
A guy like me walking around with a walker, it turns all the chicks off.
Probably not your wife.
Well, I don't know. She wasn't too happy with it either. But the physical strength started to come back. After about 3 weeks, I was shot. I was a mess. And by about 3 months, the physical strength was coming back. I felt like I had the wind at my sails, or wind at my back, whatever metaphor.
Yeah.
And I was going to be okay. And I really, had this real positive rush for a while. And my doctor noticed it, talking to him. I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to be great. I'm going to be better than I was before.
Mm-hmm.
but mentally I wasn't anywhere near that. Mentally I was still stuck. And
So
just, if I can just throw this in real
yeah,
quick.
absolutely.
The thing wasn't, it was like the old angel and devil on the shoulder from when we were kids.
Yeah.
It kept tapping me. Hey, what about that thing? What about that thing? We got to deal with this thing, and it wasn't going away.
Yeah.
So I thought somehow I got to figure this out. And this is my process. You're part of my process. And I appreciate you inviting me because, sometimes it feels good to just talk about it. I wrote about it, talk a little bit about it. And hopefully, I don't know what to hope for, to be honest.
I hope we're going to be friends forever, and we'll be, and yeah, absolutely. This is part of your processing. I'm just super excited to be a part of it with you. I also want to say, I have spoken with other people that have spoken with a lot of people that have had these experiences, and they do encourage. I mean, I would encourage you to find a person who is a therapist, or somebody who is like NDE knowledgeable, that can that would be something that might be beneficial as well.
Right. I talked to my doctor and he recommended a therapist, which I may do. To me, it feels weird. I've never really done that before.
Right. It's always good to ask for help, right, Tim?
I'm not afraid to ask for help in everything else in life. You know what I mean? Anything comes up, I ask somebody who knows more than I do. But then when it comes to me, something's different about it. I kind of feel like there's sort of mental block about, I'm not nuts. What do I do? What do I need a therapist for? But and the NDE part would be nice, but I'm not sure if that's even going to be an option. I may go in and say, you're NDE familiar, and be like, no, that stuff's nuts. I'm not going to talk about that. Right?
I highly doubt that's going to happen, by the way.
Well, he won't do that, but you know what I mean? It might be something he never even heard of. Oh, I heard of that. I watched a movie one time. Well, now you're going to actually probably train a therapist in a way that they need to be trained. It's I think I have something to say, and that's part of it. It felt like whatever was inside me saying, hey, remember that thing? It was a message that had to come out, and it wasn't going to be suppressed. And I remember leaving that hospital. I was so happy to get out of the hospital. It was a sunny day, just being out in the sunshine for the first time in 2 months, and telling my wife on the way home, I just want to put it behind me, the whole thing. I don't want to remember it. I don't want to write about it. I write too. I don't want to write about it. I don't want to, I just want it to go into the rearview mirror and sort of fade into the background and be done with it.
And it won't let you.
Well, like I said, physically, I started getting stronger. I'm going to the gym. I'm riding my bike. I'm lifting weights, blah, 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 blah. And, I'm feeling more like my old self. But mentally, yeah, it's got a mind of its own. I don't know how else to say it, but, it's not, and there's nothing in the weight room that I can use to, help me get better at that, help my mind get stronger or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's go back to you going into the hospital that night with your heart attack.
Right.
You're collapsed. Do you feel that as you collapsed in your house and your wife called 911, that you crossed over, or did you cross over at the hospital?
I believe it all happened at the hospital. The stroke didn't help. It made it considerably worse. I'm so a little salty about that. I don't think I needed to have a stroke. I didn't appreciate them giving me one.
Right.
If they're a pain in the ass, don't have one. If somebody offers you one, don't take it.
Don't take it.
Yeah.
Do not take a stroke. I will not do that.
Right. I was lucky it was in a part of my brain. They explained to me that if you're ever going to have one, that's the place you want it, whatever this place was. I don't remember what it was. But,
so walk me through when you realize that you've crossed the other side and have died?
Okay. I don't remember. I don't become conscious of it until I'm waking up from the coma, because I'm in a coma.
Okay.
Right. So
that's right.
I wake up with all this craziness going on in my head, and my head's like going to explode. And it's all of this stuff starting to declare itself.
Okay.
You know? And like I said, here I am back at the schlep. Oh my God, I got to do this, got to pay bills. I got to get the car registered. I got to, you know, right. And I don't want to do it. I like that I liked where I was. I want to go back there. So that was when, like, and that's why I say that being in the coma, I think had an effect on it in the sense that I was free to just have that experience. And then for my subconscious or whatever it is that triggers the dreams,
right,
to process it, you know, and whatever, let it marinate for a while. Because so I'm in the coma for 2 weeks, ICU, and my wife's getting phone messages left and right. This is the hospital, you know, we need you to sign a DNR order, you know, a do not resuscitate order. He's probably not going to make it. If he does make it, he's not going to be fine anymore. He's not going to be the same person. Give him some dignity. Just let him go, you know?
Oh my gosh, your poor wife.
I got the messages too. She saved them. They left messages on her phone. And to her credit, here's Tanya right here. Tanya, you want to get in the picture? Say hello? She says no.
She says no.
But to her credit, she's put her foot down. She says, you do what you have to do, save him. Do not let him die. I will never, ever sign. Your own life into him if you have to. Breathe it. She said, if you have to breathe your last breath into him, I don't care. I'm not going to sign any DNR or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
wow.
They loved her there. She got in a fight with everybody.
I love your wife.
Well, you know, it was just, they were right there with the cord in the hand, just sign right there. We'll just pull this cord and all be done.
And you're like, your wife was your advocate.
You can wash that man right out of your hair right now. Just give us the nod, you know?
I just can't even imagine. I can't even imagine the stress. I'm laughing, but because you're funny. You're very,
I can't believe it was a stress on her either. But what was sad is when I came out of the coma, I didn't really credit her with the amount of effort that she put into this. She was there every single day for like 12 hours a day. She drove an hour and a half both ways to get to the hospital, yelled at the nurses, his thing is this, the alarm's going off, he needs more of this, you know what I mean? She took the whole thing into her hands, and she's probably the reason I'm alive.
Yeah, she's a superstar. She's absolutely a superstar.
Right. So that's why when I'm coming out of it, I'm like I said, I'm getting physically stronger. I'm thinking, well, I'll be better than I was before. I got this thing licked.
Right.
Until I realized that I actually didn't have it licked.
Yeah.
It's not really in a negative way, but it was just something that I don't have the vocabulary for it. That thing that you have to get out. What is that? What's that called? And not like fire or run for your lives. I mean,
it sounds like it's a compulsion. Like I just can't.
Like a compulsion, but more than a compulsion, a part of who you are. You have to get it out. You can't. We can't coexist. It has to come out, and that's kind of how I felt. And I did, like I said, I didn't want to deal with it. I tried to put it in the rearview mirror. I wanted it to fade away. And it wasn't happening. It wasn't going to happen. It wasn't going to go away on its own. It's still not, but.
Right. So tell us about how you started to piece together that you died.
Well, people told me.
Oh.
Mainly my wife told me, you won't believe what happened. Oh my God, you had a stroke, you're in surgery, your heart, you know. And then I had these infections while I was in a coma in ICU. I mean, everything was horrible. Multiple organ failure, internal bleeding. My throat was all screwed up from being intubated. I mean, the list just goes on. It was really traumatizing, the whole thing. So as I'm coming out of that and coming back to consciousness at the end of it is when it starts to, it starts off as a real whisper. You know, and then it gradually starts to get louder and starts to really get clearer.
Okay.
That, these, and it's like the memories all were there and they were still vivid and it was still like I could touch them. Like you see the colors and certain things.
Yeah.
It was still there. So, I mean, that's kind of where I ended up is thinking I guess I'll write about it. I'll try and write. I can write a little bit,
Mhm.
So I'll try and write about it and see if that helps. And then it led to a nice person like you come and ask me to be on there. But a couple other people have asked me as well, but this is my first, so
Oh,
it'll always be my favorite.
oh, it's my favorite too. It's my
Oh,
favorite.
that's good. That okay, we got that going.
We got that going for us. So as it starts to whisper and you start to realize, do you want to share some of the experiences that you had as you were on the other side?
Well, there were three distinct ones, but the first one was pretty powerful, and that was the one with the 14th century Peruvian Catholic basilica.
Okay.
Waking up in there, and somebody taking my it's me at this point. It's me with my perspective. Somebody picks me up and puts me on this giant stone, like granite table type
Uh-huh.
thing. Almost looks like an altar kind of thing, like a granite surgery table or whatever.
Okay.
The ends hang over. And an Italian nun, she has a really strong Italian accent, walks up to me and she looks me over real quick. And I'm watching her. She's looking at me. We don't speak. And then she pulls out a tool, like a Dremel with like a 2-inch hole saw, and drills a hole in the side of my neck.
Okay.
And there's a girl, a younger assistant that's standing next to her. As she does this, now I'm standing beside the nun, watching her do this to me. I know it's me. I know it's me standing behind the nun. We're both me, but neither one's thinking or worried or whatever.
Okay.
There wasn't two of us there. There was me watching me watch her
Okay.
perform this procedure. And what she did was pull out the hole, and the assistant, the younger girl, asked, "Wow, do they all have fire inside of them?" And she said, "The ones we get do." And she took two little tools. One was sitting in next to a fire, and another was like an electrode from a multi-tester to test ohms and
Yeah.
all that. And the wheel, there was like a wheel inside my neck that was spinning really fast, and there was electrical sparks coming off of it, and there was random bursts of fire. It was chaotic. But she took both the tools, put them into my neck, and worked on it for, time is kind of compressed and decompressed in there, so I don't really remember how long. But next thing I know, she's done, and I can see that the wheel it's symmetrical. The electricity's in a pattern. It's smooth.
Okay.
The
No
fire
more
is smooth.
chaos.
Everything. There's no more chaos. She settled it. Whatever she did, she fixed it. And then I wake up, and the younger nurse, who's small, pulls me up. They're kind of rough with me, to be honest with you. They pulled me off the table and put me on another table. And I'm on the table, and I'm looking at the nurse, and she starts to communicate with me. There's no words. She's not looking at me. Her mouth's not moving. But I'm hearing her words resonate in my head. And she's explained to me that this church was built in the 1300s and some other things. And I don't remember all the details of the conversation, but it's like, I guess the word would be telepathic.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a word?
Yes.
That she's through telepathy is communicating with me, not looking at me, not talking, no voice, just the words moving into my head. It was really a strange experience. And I've told a few of people, I had a speech therapist for a while to help get out of the hospital. My voice was really bad. It's gotten a whole bunch better, but it's still kind of weak. But I was explaining some of these parts to her. She was one of the first ones I talked to. And that was in the hospital.
And you told the speech
I
therapist.
told her the speech. I told her these other things. But the next part is where she comes into play. I look over in the corner. There's 4 little babies. They're little kids.
Okay.
And I've got 4 grandsons between 18 months and 4 years old.
Wow.
They say, I think it's them, but I can't guarantee it. I barely could see them, but I think it's them. And she said, those were your angels. Those little babies were your angels. That's what saved you. And I thought, wow, I like your story better than mine. I thought it was just sentimental.
You thought,
That
wow.
Yeah, I really liked her story. So
That was her, that was the speech therapist story about the four
well,
babies.
well, about the four babies.
Yeah, about the
You know,
four
the rest
babies.
of the story, she was like, well, you should write about this. That's really interesting, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, on that part, she said those babies were your angels.
When
And
you were on the table watching you have this procedure, did you see any other people in there with you or in a line anywhere?
no, just
No,
those two.
just you.
Just there was some canvas bags that looked like body bags, but I couldn't see that there was anybody in them. And I
Okay.
think that's how I came in there. I'm not sure though. I'm not really sure how I got there, but there was like these canvas body bags laying around.
And
And
once you saw the babies, did it shift? Did you shift back into a dream state, or did you? What happened?
no, it keeps going. It just kept
Okay,
going. And the thing is, there's so many incidences, and there's more that looking back at them in hindsight didn't really make sense at the
right.
time, you know, or
Yeah.
shouldn't have made sense. But I didn't question anything. I never looked back. There was a big section where I was in the 1920s, and my mom's there, and she's in her mid 20s. Well, she wasn't even born till 1940 something, whatever,
Right.
45. You know, so it didn't make any sense. But I didn't. What's funny is you just accept it. What is. You know, but some parts you like, some parts you're not going to like. But this is what it is.
So that's a very interesting message that you're saying there, Tim. Is there some, no matter whether you're in Peru in the 14th century or if you're in the United States in 20s, no matter what's happening, you are where you are. There's going to be some good and there's going to be some bad, and it's just an accepting and moving on.
Yeah, I kept describing it when it first happened. They kept saying, I didn't have an ego. I didn't have an ego.
Oh,
Meaning to me, I wasn't thinking anything about myself. You know,
uh,
that's when I say that. I'm not sure if that's the right, again, or the right term to use or not, but I'm not thinking about really anything like any fear or worry or what's going to be next or what should I say? Like I'm talking to you, I sort of halfway think ahead, you know, a few seconds or whatever. That's not going on when I'm there. I'm going with it. Whatever it is, it is. This is it.
did that feel really comforting?
Very comfortable. It was absolutely blissful. And
Blissful.
the people I felt were wonderful. Um, almost everywhere I went, there was one guy who was cranky, but I think he was just a cranky person, maybe. But so what I tied this back to too is one other thing I wanted to talk about real briefly. I
Yeah.
could get ahead of myself a little bit, but um, the whole experience was all the experiences were so wonderful and so warm, you know, and comforting, blissful, happy, a place you just wanted to stay. And like I said, I not only was when this happened, was I doing the best I could do to take care of myself, but I felt like my whole life I've done what I could for everybody else. I was generous with what I had, you know, and I felt like that carried over with me and helped
Oh.
to influence that the things that happened were joyous, whatever. Am I explaining that right?
No, I love that. I'm just gonna recap it, make sure that I have it in my own head, because I just want to. So what I'm hearing you say, and definitely correct me if it's wrong, is that because you have lived a real you've lived a kind life, you found kindness on the other side as well. That part of you continued. There was no interruption of who you were from here to the other side.
No, well,
Not totally.
it's
Okay.
hard to say that there's no interruption because it's really was kind of such a different experience, you know,
Yeah.
to be looking at something 1 minute and then a minute later be looking at yourself. It's kind
Yeah.
of a strange experience.
That has got to be a strange experience.
Yeah, and watch somebody operate on you, and you know that you know that you know that you know, right? And
You
but it doesn't hurt or anything.
Right.
There's no pain. Um,
And did you at all question, like, why is this happening? What's going on
No, that
here?
was the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's like there were so many things that looking back on, I question, especially like with time, like I said, with my mom, She was in her 20s, 20 years before she was born.
Right.
I should have said, well, this doesn't make any sense. If it happened right this minute, I go, if my mom, 25-year-old version of my mom walked in, I go, this doesn't make any sense.
This doesn't make any sense, right?
Right. So, but I didn't question any of that stuff. Like I said, it was just what was, and what was next, and that was just the way it was going to go.
I love that description. What was, and what was next was next.
Yeah.
Then what happens? What goes next? What happens kind of that you can, because I have a real big understanding here that things are going to kind of unfold for you as time goes on.
What way? I'm not sure.
That you'll like have a lot of epiphanies because you're 7 months. Most people are like 15, 20 years that they've had sat with this.
Right. But they're pretty crystal clear.
And I'm so grateful for you, Tim.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
For your courage to like just to be here right now in this moment. I think it's amazing.
I think it's pretty amazing too. So at least everything worked. The microphone worked, the camera worked. I'm happy about that.
Everything's always working out for you, man.
It's coming up aces. That's what I'm telling you.
It's coming up aces.
I can't miss.
I can't miss.
But there's so many little things that go along with it, and it's that realm is connected to this realm. Let's just put it that way. Whether it's me or this Tim Norton character, do you understand? There's a connection. There's a continuation, even though I identify with Tim Norton. If I get a piece of mail that says Tim Norton, I open the mail.
Right.
Would I identify with a different name? And that's basically somebody else with a different name. It's you, but it's not the same experience. It's an entirely different experience. And that's.
So you said you felt warmth at a fire pit. Tell me a little bit about that.
Inside of this church, it was all made out of granite. It was a big vacuumous-like building. And they had like fire pits burning in different parts of this area that we were in. I don't know what it was. It wasn't the church part of the church. It was like, I don't know, where the nuns have whatever, coffee or whatever.
Right.
I don't know what it was, honestly. But it was beautiful. It had a big archway that led out to a balcony that was it's castle-like as best I can describe it. It's like a balcony, a porch, a patio, whatever, but it's made out of giant granite stones. And near the end of that scene, I go outside and I'm looking at the Pacific. I'm looking at the light in the water, and the Pacific is just absolutely still, just stone cold still, like a mirror.
Wow.
I'm looking at the light in the Pacific, and my eyes follow the light up to this giant orange, like harvest moon. It's just above the water line, and it's just stunning. And the sky is so dark, it's kind of purplish. And that was my last memory of that. And then I sort of became conscious somewhere else. And it was a Korean monastery that came next. And I'm not a religious person, and I don't speak Korean.
I think I speak Korean.
I've never been to Korea, So that's why it puzzles me the way the time jumps around to different places. And some guy mentioned, hey, maybe that's past life regression.
Right.
What's going on? And that was the Bob Dylan quote we got back to earlier.
So do you want to talk about the Korean monastery?
It was brief. It really didn't go on a long time. I was stuck there. People were meditating. I ended up having to work in the gift shop, and I asked somebody to help me to get out of there to move on to the next thing.
How did you do that? Let's talk about that for a second.
There were people. I was felt kind of locked away at this place. I couldn't, like, there wasn't an obvious egg. Nobody was stopping me, but there was no obvious way to get out either.
Okay.
And so they had, as monasteries do, they had a gift shop. Right? And so I'm promoted to work in this gift shop. And it's there that I try and talk to somebody who speaks Korean. And again, he doesn't speak English. I don't speak Korean, but he says it in Korean and it translates in my mind what he's saying.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah, it is a translation like Google Translate.
Right.
And
That's
he
it.
just basically just shows me where the door is, how to get out. And that's what I couldn't find. I couldn't find an exit. I couldn't get out. And I felt trapped.
How long after coming out of that door did you wake up from your coma?
After
Do we,
coming out,
yeah, do you think like the next thing that happens is the next thing going into another? Did you
then
tumble
it,
in?
I almost step into the next, like almost like a magic movie trick, you know.
You fall into the next thing.
Fall into the next scene. And it's again, it's just next. You know, you can complain if you want, but here it is, you know, like it or not.
So we were like, well, thank God I got out of that monastery. Now,
Yeah, it was kind of a strange experience. It was Sun something. I remember the name was Sun something, but I didn't really even try and look it up. It was kind of a brief thing, but from there, that's where I went to 1920 Louisiana.
Okay.
And it was an absolutely stunning property. It was next to a body of water. I thought it was in Mississippi, but I could be wrong. I don't know if that's the case.
Did you say Indiana?
No, Louisiana.
Louisiana.
Yeah, Louisiana, and like a bayou type setting.
Oh.
And that was where, this is one of the points, there's a lot to it, but I'm going to kind of shorten it up a little bit. I become conscious in the bedroom upstairs of this small Victorian style house. It's a very humble little house. It's white with red trim. And there's a Duesenberg parked out front on the lawn. It's on the grass.
Okay.
And it doesn't seem to make, that's one thing that I sort of questioned. Wow, the car is probably worth more than this whole house.
Right.
You know, it's a beautiful car. But there's a black guy sitting on the bed. He's older black, he's older than me. He's probably 70ish. He's got whitish hair. He's talking about the cars that he has. And I've always been a car guy, so I'm interested. And he says, I have a 1920 Dodge that has the new something transmission. I don't remember what he said it was. He said, I have the original blueprints. I worked at Dodge and I designed this transmission. And I have the original blueprints downstairs. Do you want to see it? And there's my mother in that scene. She's with me too. Her and I are visiting one another, whatever. And we go downstairs to see, he's going to show us his car. He's proud of it. And it's stunning. It's a beautiful car. It's like a pale yellow with white interior, convertible.
Nice.
And he says, do you want to take it for a ride? Here's the blueprints, by the way. He pulls those out, lays them on the hood. Here's the blueprints. So my thought was, who was that guy? I have no idea who he was. I didn't recognize him. It never occurred to me to ask who he was. I'm wondering if somebody somewhere knows a black guy that worked at Dodge in the 1920s that had a hand in designing this new whatever fabulous transmission that they came up with.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to put that on. I'll put that on.
I'm just throwing it out there. I thought to myself, I wonder, I mean, stranger things have happened. But somebody go, that was my great grandfather. He worked at Dodge. He invented this transmission. Oh my God,
Right.
But he was doing well. He was very happy.
Aww.
That's the other side of that message. So
he's very happy.
If I ever do connect, which is, I probably win the lottery for it, but
you'll never win the lottery. You'll connect with this person before that happens.
I hope so. I would like to tell him that he was very charming, very, very happy.
Oh,
yeah. I had no idea who he was though. It was just so strange.
Well, you know what? We'll put it out there, and hopefully somebody can like, oh my gosh, that was my great
Well, that's what you're right. I mean, it's possible.
It's possible.
So okay, so I wanted to make sure I got that in. I made a few notes, but then I forgot my notebook. That was one of the things I wanted to just put out there. Hopefully, maybe, I don't know, maybe there's a connection, Like I said, it's just a continuation. And most of the people that were in it, I didn't know, Even the babies, I didn't really identify them. I just saw 4 babies about that age, about that size, similar profile, whatever,
right, playing
together. And that, I didn't get past that point, but I really liked her explanation that, it's those were your angels. I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know. I mean, are
There's
angels
a
connected to that realm?
Well, it's so interesting because one of the things that you're talking about is having this, very childlike attitude. I mean, very accepting what's happening, and you're just doing this now, and then the next thing you do, just that real childlike. I'm very much in the moment.
See, I like there again. Now I got another good one. I like your explanation of it best because, like I said, I don't struggle with vocabulary, and you hear me talk, but I struggle finding the proper vocabulary
So
to
yeah.
describe some of the stuff. In childlike is an excellent description. I didn't think of it because it's me. I don't want to people, oh, he's immature.
No, I know. I'm not saying. No. I'm not saying immature at all. No, no, no.
No, I know, but you know what I mean. So I never pinned it on my own ego. Didn't want me to pin it on myself, but that's a good point. And like I said before, we talked about at the beginning. People probably forget this, but how long does that period last?
Yeah.
After to like for however long it was absolutely blissful for me. And I wish it could have just gone on for eternity, just be in that state,
Right.
How long is that? And there was a story on the internet. I don't know if it was called a story, a short story, or poem, or poetics short story, or whatever, but somebody had written it and they used, from the perspective of the writer, they were children that were playing, having a great time, and they were just absolutely joyous. Everything was great. And then the subject came up of, it's time for so-and-so to go back.
Oh.
And it puts fear in all these children that this guy's writing about. It was brilliant poem, or I can't remember, it was whatever, 6 or 7 chapters.
Right.
Real short story, but it put panic into these children that they knew that they had, and they weren't children, they were adults, or they were regular age, but the way he begins the writing of it, they're very childlike.
Oh.
But then it comes towards the end, and some of them are going to have to go back, and they absolutely dread it. They dread it. They remember the pain, the frustrations,
Yeah.
trials and tribulations, the traumas, all that stuff, and none of them want to go back. That's like the worst thing that happens. And I guess what he's getting at is they get reincarnated. I don't really know. He didn't use that word. And
That's really interesting.
So yeah, so what is that time period, right? And
right.
What does it have a name? Does anybody know what the name is?
I have no idea.
Help me out. But it could go on for, we leave this person, this guy,
right,
leave him behind. Then I go on for another, whatever, 50, 60, 70 years.
Yep.
Hopefully like that. And then start over again, I guess, and do this again. But what's that part called in the middle? There's a middle, no matter which way you slice it. Everybody who's had an NDE knows it. For a while,
happiness,
they had one foot in one side, one foot in the other. But what's that?
Straddling both worlds.
Right.
Yeah.
You're straddling both worlds, but then you go over. What is it? You just can't say dead. Or, because if I told the social, well, I'm dead, but I'm doing all these things.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense either. So I'm still very much alive. And how long does it last is something that I don't know. I don't know if I would say research it, but I'd like to know more about it. If any of your listeners.
You're bringing up some deeply philosophical questions.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
I love it. I mean, I just, how long does that last? I guess it just.
Right. I mean, you want it to be eternity. Trust me. I hope it, well, I expect it'll happen to you too, Yeah. And I really hope it's for eternity, that it just goes on forever. It feels so good.
Yeah.
No fear, no worry. Don't even really think. Whatever. Okay. Oh, okay.
That does sound kind of wonderful.
It really was. It really was. And then to wake up and the nurse grab your arm, I got to take blood, stab you with the needle. Somebody else come in and you start thinking, oh my God, I'll do this.
Was that your first conscious moment back, is when this nurse is like, I got
right in that time period. It took nearly a day and a half for me to fully come out of the fog. Really. Yeah. That's why I say I think that coma really had a big effect on it. I had the near-death experience as well as in a coma, and it gave my mind time to process it a little bit. I think. I don't know. but it sort of, when I came out of it, these things slowly came back to me. And some of them I took some magical medicine,
Uh-huh.
and some of the pieces that were missing came back. It was
Oh,
fantastic.
wow.
Yeah, just some pieces. It wasn't the whole story, but there was some very vivid things that I hadn't remembered or whatever. Or it wasn't in the conversation.
That's pretty exciting. I'm really excited to see, I'm gonna, if you're open to it, as time goes on, another follow-up interview to be like, talk about how things
Well,
kind of settle for you.
I'm like everybody else. I read stuff on social media for what it's worth. And I shouldn't say that because I put stuff on there. People thinking I'm a joke. But I forgot what I was going to say. I'm sorry.
It's
I'm
okay.
at a loss for words.
I was talking about interviewing you again as time goes on. And
Oh,
yep.
right. When I was in the hospital before, when I started physical therapy, I was desperate to get out. I couldn't stand the place. It was so
Uh-huh.
horrible. And why am I? As soon as I mentioned magical medicine, all of a sudden I went goofy. Or say it again. What we were talking about?
I
I'm
was
sorry.
talking about interviewing you again as time goes
Oh,
on.
right.
Yeah.
So trying to get out of the hospital, I remember asking a couple of nurses and a couple of therapists, is there a possibility that when I leave here, I'm going to have some health issues that haven't declared themselves yet?
Mhm.
You know, I don't know, my back, my hip, whatever, my shoulder.
Right.
Like just out of curiosity, because I've been laying here, I've been stuck in this bed, it's got an alarm on it. If I get out of the bed, the alarm goes off, the lights go off, the nurses come running.
Oh my
For 2
gosh.
months, I'm in this thing. So I'm
Wow.
thinking, well, if once I get up and start going back to Walmart, whatever
Right.
it is we do, am I going to have? Is there a chance that things will pop up that I don't know about now? And the same thing, like you just said, in the future, I'm hoping that physically I was able to advance pretty quickly and get back in some kind of. I'm not in great shape, but some kind of shape. That mentally there's a lot of room for expansion. That something positive can come out of it. And I've heard people say, well, they have sort of like an enhanced ESP, or
Yeah.
I don't know, whatever. They're able to predict the future. I don't think anybody can do that, but that sort of thing where it turns into an asset, an improvement. That's what I'm hoping.
Well, from where I sit, Tim, this is an improvement. Like I see you at such already peace, and you have already an improvement because you see how amazing this life already is.
Yeah. I just, I think that's part of the same thing because I felt that way last year.
Yeah.
Last year around Christmas time with two of my grandsons,
Mm.
and it was just everything was. I don't even like the word happy as a metric for measuring, but I was very content with what was happening.
Yeah.
The way
Contentment.
my life was going, the trajectory that it was on, everything seemed to be. I wanted for nothing. Really, I had so little desire for other stuff. I wanted maybe some better camera equipment, but that'll come.
I gotta say, I commend you. I commend your wife. She was holding it down in many different ways and probably took a lot out of her.
Oh yeah.
But I'm curious. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
One of my curiosities is, do you want to go to Peru, or do you want
absolutely. I want to go everywhere.
You want to go everywhere now?
Yeah, well, I always did, but I really want to go to Argentina and see Patagonia.
Oh, that would be
Tierra del Fuego is down there too. Yeah,
that
down
would
near
be
the tip of Argentina, tip of South America.
Yeah.
I just got my passport renewed, so watch out, Argentina. I might be coming.
Going to Argentina, that's awesome.
I hope so.
That is fantastic. Well, I just really want to thank you for sharing your time with me tonight. I really, and I is there anything else that you want to add that I didn't ask that you think like, oh my gosh, I've got to know this?
Um, I don't know. There's a million things. There's a million things that go through my mind. Now I'm just curious about that. What is that time period in between? And I've asked a couple of people, nobody really seems to have an answer, but it's there. It's measurable. I don't how long it is, I don't know. But if you died for 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, you were there for 1 minute, 2 minutes, three, whatever it was. So there's a
Right.
space, there, where you go. And for
It's
a lot of people,
interesting. You know what? Maybe it has something to do with dark matter.
it could be, it's really kind of a different realm, but
Yeah.
it sort of feels like here, in kind of a strange way.
Huh.
Yeah, you don't really feel like you don't feel like you don't belong. You definitely belong where you're at. You're not out of place. Even in Peru, I would just felt perfectly comfortable. Oh well, how you doing?
You're just having I love
Having a
that.
great time.
Having a great time.
Yeah, I had a great time in the hospital afterwards too. After I came out of it, I remember telling the nurses I was going to go streaking. I could do all these crazy things. I figured out how to hack the alarm so I could get out of bed without the alarm going off.
Oh, nice.
Right, the nurse's station called my wife at home. Said, "Tell your husband, do not turn off that alarm ever again."
Oh, that's hilarious.
I was doing
Yeah.
it for days.
I think if I'm going to need somebody to get anything done, I'm going to call your wife.
Yeah, she gets stuff in, but I still turned off the alarm.
We still turned off.
For a little while I didn't, but I forget where we are.
Well, we're just hanging out. We're just talking. I just
We
really
are.
enjoy your presence.
I wish I had a hold on a second. The one thing I did want to add though is I've had a few people ask about this. Somehow you can't peel this away from religion. Somehow, it seems like, in a lot of cases, they're one and the same. They're stuck together. You can't separate them. They're inseparable. But it's, if anything, it's a spiritual experience. It's not a religious experience.
Spiritual experience.
And I'm not a religious person. I was baptized Catholic. I was born again Christian, whatever. But I don't really do much with it. I don't follow it. But it was just a very spiritual experience, not a religious experience. There was no Jesus didn't come see me or anything.
Do you find that when you're talking with people now, do you approach it different than you did prior to your death experience?
That's a tough question.
Because I have a sense that you were just as present before as you are now, but maybe you're like leaning into it now deeper when you talk to people.
Right. Is it different? There's parts of my personality that are a little bit different. There's one other part. Oh, and I almost forgot this. When I was at the basilica going out to look at the full moon on the patio, whatever.
Yeah.
There was a statue there, and a huge statue, about 12 feet, 15 feet tall. And it was a statue of a woman in a big white robe with red trim on and a blue headdress with jewels on it.
Uh-huh.
And I had no idea who it was, but I couldn't help but notice it and look at it. And when I was still in the hospital, my wife, God bless her, she said, she sounds like the hero and all. She'll be happy about that. I didn't really give her enough credit because all the things she was doing, I was in a coma. I didn't really know what was going on.
You didn't know what was going on. Yeah,
She's like, you don't even thank me for doing it. I was like, I don't really know what happened. Sorry. But anyways, she brought me my laptop in the hospital, and I did the best that I could to try and find it, a replica. Uh-huh. And it was a statue of the Greek goddess Calliope.
Calliope.
Calliope. It's in a Bruce Springsteen song. It's in a Bob Dylan song. Believe it or not, I know it's crazy. Calliope. She's a Greek goddess of artistry, creativity, music, painting, writing, speech writing, right? She's what they call the mother of all muses, right? And
Oh,
one of the things I noticed coming out of the hospital after about a month, when I was starting to kind of get my feet underneath me, I wasn't really there
yeah.
yet, is that when I wrote stuff, I didn't feel like that little bit of creativity or imagination or motivation was there anymore. And I was scared to death I was going to lose it.
Oh,
I keep wondering, was there a connection there too?
well, you know what's interesting, Tim? I don't know if you've thought about this, but the house that you
Excuse me.
went to in the 1920s was
Mhm.
white with red trim as well.
Wow. See, I learned more from telling the story than I do from living it.
Yeah.
That's a great example. Yes, because it was very similar. Very similar. And she was painted like an ivory that was painted, or
Okay.
it might have been
Yeah.
granite. I don't know, really
Right.
smooth granite. I don't know, but she was painted. And her face was sort of a pale yellow. You know, like I said, I'm a photographer. I noticed this sort of stuff
Right. Right.
that they
Right.
had used for her face. And the guy's Dodge, 1920 Dodge, was a very similar pale
It's a
yellow
pale
color.
yellow. Yes.
Pale yellow with the white, with the red, right? I didn't see the blue with the jewels on it. I don't know, there was like emeralds and sapphires and stuff on like a headband kind of thing, headdress, whatever. But I wondered about that. I thought, why would she be there to sap creativity from me? You know, why would that happen? That doesn't make sense. None of it
I
really makes sense when you think about it. But
you know what, one of the things I want to offer is when I'm sitting here is the idea that it's actually not sapping. She's showing you where she's actually guiding you, and she's everywhere.
right,
So yeah,
that's what I'm hoping for.
that's
That's when I said that there's room for expansion.
yep.
You know, this
I
would be
think
one of the things I would like to expand towards. I would like more of her, please. You
yes.
know,
No, I got to tell you, I that's what I feel. I'm curious. Was there anything white with red trim or in the Korean in the monastery, in the Sun
no,
Monastery?
no, I don't recall
But it
anything
was the
with.
Sun Monastery again. That
Yeah,
yellow.
sun. The word sun was in it, and I'm not sure what it was, and nobody spoke English. Well, they may have, but they spoke to each other in Korean, so I didn't.
Mm.
I wasn't privy to the conversation. Um, everybody's very nice, but I didn't really speak with anybody. And I did get a few messages from people. It's funny how all of a sudden these words start to fire off in your head.
Yeah.
You know, when you're like looking around, like when the girl first did it, she was looking the other way, wasn't paying any attention to me at all. But I'm
Uh-huh.
hearing her voice going, you know, this was built in the 1300s. It was done by so and so, blah, blah, blah.
Wow.
I'm like, wow, that's kind of weird thinking.
That is so cool.
It was
I
cool. It was
yeah.
very cool.
I think that you're gonna, because I know that, and I'm gonna talk about this in the beginning as well. I'm gonna make sure that I talk. I'll put up your website once you make sure you tell me like how people can get to your NFTs and your work and how and all the and support you
Yeah.
in your date with destiny and the goddess.
Whatever that may be. You know, one thing I do like though, is I like that when I wrote this, I got a lot of positive feedback. People said,
Yeah.
thank you so much. I feel so much better now. Thank you. Appreciate you writing this, you know, whatever. That's the reward, you
Yeah.
know, that to me is, I don't want to do it for money. I just did it for that. And I've had another health issue for the last 20 years, a pancreatitis problem, keep getting pancreatitis. It's been away for a while, but I do that online too. You know, I've never done a
Oh,
podcast, but I give,
right.
for lack of a better word, advice or at least direction as best I can to people, and they appreciate it. And that part I like. That's the part I like. I'm not
The part you
motivated by
like.
money. I don't care about money.
It will be very interesting to see how I'm interested to see how it sort of begins to settle out and what kind of pieces come out to you as time goes on.
Yeah, because what I don't know, I don't know.
Right.
You know, I mean, it could be very well be events. that I don't know if it's in dismissed, but I can't recall or don't recall.
Right.
Right. Then that was like my question with the physical thing. Are there going to be problems that are going to declare themselves down the road? Like I have a bad back because I've been in a hospital bed for 2 months or whatever.
Right.
That's what I was thinking. So,
right.
So these other things, how are they going to, present themselves? Or
Yeah.
are they going to, or what is it going to be? But like I said, I feel like I have space for growth, for lack of a better word, or good positive things to happen.
I dig it. I think you absolutely do. And I'm really very excited for how how it just unfolds for you. I think it's going to be beautiful.
It's been pretty good. I have the support of my family. My daughter came to help me. She's been instrumental in me getting back to health, put weight back on. I'd lost 50 pounds during that whole episode.
Wow.
Yeah, so I put on about 20 of it. And I'm still in the process of doing that. And I'm optimistic. There's nothing really, I have nothing bad to say. I hated the hospital, but the experience was it was wonderful. There's nothing that haunts me.
Right.
But it won't let me forget either. I can't, it's not forget. It's not the right word. It won't let me dismiss it.
Right.
So that's where I'm at.
Well, I want to thank you again, Tim, for spending time with us tonight. And
it's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Yes, and just we'll keep a line of communication open and see how everything keeps moving forward.
Please do. Anytime you want me to come back, I'll be happy to do it.
That's so wonderful. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Thank you. You too.
All right, bye.
Good night.